Hi, CP.
Hello, Bear.
We have another chit-chat.
We do. We have episode 75, and this is with the one and only Josh Sparks.
And Josh was on Gardener's World in 2024, on episode 23, when Frances Tophill visited him at his place at Birch Farm in Devon.
Yeah.
And if you can cast your mind back to that episode, it's where he showed Frances a lot of biodynamic gardening.
Yeah.
And also something that will probably stand out in your minds is thanks to the demolition of a nearby power station, they'd managed to get in tons of rubble so that they could have sort of really change the topology of the farm to have this amazing gravel/rubble garden
Very
as well.
bumpy almost, so the paths are almost sunken below the beds, and the beds are really mounded up.
Yeah, absolutely. And we hear a lot more about that on this episode.
Yeah, and how it works.
We do actually learn a lot from this one. I've kept this pretty long form because everything Josh said
was important.
Was important.
I know, it was so annoying.
With facts, and so there was no cutting down of this really. It really was a fascinating chat, and Josh does the majority of the talking.
I know he does.
And we were hanging off his every word.
Really. And it was amazing because we had this episode, I remember it was quite a late evening chat, and Josh just had all this information that he gave to us, and it was so amazing. It was almost like a bedtime story.
Yes.
But about biodynamic planting.
About biodynamic planting. Also, sustainability and future-proofing for the event of the Super El Nino, which is undoubtedly going to be happening now.
Exactly, which I didn't know about that much beforehand.
This was recorded in early May. It was quite interesting because Josh mentions at one point about how they've had loads of rain. It's just really wet. And now we sit in July and we've had heat wave upon heat wave and hardly any rain. We've got hosepipe bans across the country. There are wildfires across the UK, which is a shocker.
I know.
So we really need some water. And so it's just a bit weird hearing Josh talk about the excess of rain that they've had.
Yeah, it's quite funny.
But it was back in May. Little did we know at that time what was coming this summer.
Yes.
We also hear about how at Birch Farm they're trialling their perennial vegetables.
Yes, they are.
And how perennial veg are essentially the future.
They are the best.
This is one of the things that we can all start doing, using perennial veg. That's future-proofing a huge amount, isn't it?
Exactly. And we also learn about the fact that composting isn't actually that eco-friendly, which is quite incredible.
A surprise, wasn't it?
I know. So we do talk about that in a bit more detail.
Yeah.
And also we obviously talk about bokashi as well.
But also Josh does say he's not anti-composting.
No. At no point are we saying stop composting, people.
No. So as you can imagine from this episode, we have a huge amount of links.
Oh my gosh, name drops galore.
Name drops left, right and centre, even in pretty much his last sentence of the episode. So all of these have been captured and put onto our website. So if you go to notjustagarden.co.uk, click on Chit-Chats, find Josh's face, click on there, you'll get all these links and some photos and videos that are relevant. So a bit more of a visual to the audio that you get to hear on this podcast.
Precisely.
In terms of noises, really not too much. There's a bird singing nearby at Josh's end and some very happy children in the background at Josh's end. And then his dog Twigsy enters the chat towards the end, and that was a lovely surprise.
Very sweet dog.
So, Sweet Pea, tell us about the format.
So, for Josh's Dream Garden, we have garden boundaries, shed a greenhouse, 5 ornamentals, 5 edibles, 1 statement tree, pond or pool plus 1 plant, and finally favourite seating area drink and 1 plant for that area.
That's it. And if you have any questions for Josh or for us or any feedback or comments, then please do get in touch. You can do that through our website, which is
notjustagarden.co.uk,
or you can email us at
notjustagarden@outlook.com.
And when you're on the website, check out Josh's page as mentioned before, but also have a look at the gardens page and you'll find pins on the map and links to a plethora of places that Josh has recommended all around the world. We've got some in the US, some in Northern Ireland, some in Northern Europe, all over the shop.
It's crazy.
So I think we should have a look at this episode, Sweet Pea.
I think we should.
Lot to be getting through.
Absolutely.
This is episode 75, a good old chit-chat with Josh Sparks.
Off we go.
Welcome, Josh, to Good Old Chit-Chat.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks so much for joining us. You told us before we started recording that you come straight in from out with
half
your
an hour
hands.
beforehand.
Oh no, with your hands in the earth. So you've had a long day at the farm, have you?
Yeah, so it's been a good 12-hour day today. So
Wow.
pretty long.
What goes on in those 12 hours?
Yeah.
So we do the harvest. So I grow for a company called The Collective at Wolseley, and I manage a farm called Birch Farm. And so we pick all the produce which goes to our pub, fish and chip shop, bakery, all these kind of like little businesses within it as part of this collective. So we come in, we have to do the pick, but we're doing a lot of work on the idea of perennial foods at the moment. So today we planted up a 40-metre perennial salad bed. So it's been a lot of planting today to try and get it planted in, basically.
So those plugs that you've had going in the greenhouse beforehand?
Yeah. So everything's grown on the farm. So we grew a lot of them last year, and then they stay in nice centimetres over the winter, and then we let them bulk up a little bit in the spring, and then we get them out round about now. We're getting quite a lot of rain. It's still quite cold, actually, so it's kind of extended the planting season quite a bit.
That's good.
You're down in Devon, aren't you?
Yeah, North Devon.
So what's your last frost date down there?
So we don't really get frost anymore. Because we have to at all. So we have like things like runner beans, are perennial for us. So we've had runner beans 3 years in the ground.
Right.
I mean, it's always a risk factor. We could always get that cold winter one year, but we barely get any frost because we're right next to the coast. We're kind of like near Lundy Island, so near Heartland and the NOB.
Yeah.
And so we get. I wouldn't say it's warm. The wind feels pretty cold, but it stops. It obviously stops a lot of the frost quite a bit, so we don't really have a frost problem, to be honest.
Yeah. What a nice part of the world to be in, though. That's beautiful there, isn't
lovely.
it?
Lovely, very windy, and it's very wet. It's probably one of the most difficult growing positions I've ever had the pleasure of growing in, to be honest.
Oh, right.
Really?
Yeah.
Because of the wet?
Because of the wind and the wet. Yeah.
What problems does the wind cause?
So the wind can basically dry everything out, even leaf surfaces. Right. It's such a dry wind, and it's relentless. So we can have wind for like 5 days constant. So what can actually happen is it can strip all the moisture out of the leaves of plants and burn them. And it's a very, very strong wind as well. So it can literally like rip trees out the ground or keep things like constantly moving, so nothing wants to root.
Yeah,
and it could be a cold wind. It could be a really, really cold wind as well, and then the rain on top of that as well. So it's and the farm itself, Birch Farm, is incredibly high as well. It's like in a really high position.
So very exposed.
So it's incredibly exposed. So a lot of the mission's being trying to reduce that exposure as much as possible.
Oh yeah, not in a valley.
Are you getting
a windbreak?
Yeah, so you're setting up windbreaks around the place.
Yeah, so we're doing a lot more windbreaks, and it's why we're transitioning to predominantly a perennial food system as well, because the perennials are far more resistant to the rain, the cold, the wind, and anything the climate chucks at it.
Are you getting much in the way of salt air where you are? You're not that close to the...
I don't think we get a lot of salt, to be honest.
No. You've got enough other things to be dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much. I mean, we've got to a position now we can pretty much grow anything. We still struggle with things like corn and stuff like that, but beyond that, we can pretty much grow anything now. What's strange about this part of Devon is we have really reduced light levels. It's quite, I don't know, it's not, I'm not going to say it's dark, but it can be quite hard to like get things like squashes to ripen.
Yeah.
It's why we've never really grown corn, because the season, we have an incredibly short season around here compared to like, you know, East Sussex and Sussex and stuff like that. Our season is quite short, feels quite short anyway.
So what do you do about squashes then?
So squashes, we grow them, and then we have to put them in the glass house for quite a long time to ripen up. And it's kind of hit and miss, to be honest. It's hit and miss. This year we're growing, I can't remember what it's called, Vostage Grey, which is a Russian variety we got from Real Seeds, which is one that's more reliable to sweeten up in cold and more exposed areas. So we're basically just growing that.
Yeah.
And again, it's one of the reasons why we focus now a lot on perennial foods, food forests, agroforestry, because actually those things are pretty reliable croppers for us during those harder times.
Yeah, so conversely, what would you say really thrives in those conditions that you have?
So we're incredibly good at growing brassicas, leafy
Right.
greens, the perennials again because they get so much moisture. Because again we're wet, we're really wet.
Mm-hmm.
Things we struggle with are things like the cucurbits, corn, beans was always a struggle for us, but we actually had a very good bean crop last year. So I think the problem with our beans was always exposure to wind, and now our windbreaks are up. Now actually we were growing pretty good beans last year. So it's those kind of like really late season ripeners that we can kind of struggle with.
In terms of the perennial veg, are you anywhere near Mandy Barber with her incredible vegetables?
Yeah, I mean, we're good friends with Mandy. She's only an hour and a half away from us, so we always go to see Mandy twice a year, and she comes up to the farm to like consult a tiny bit and help us pick plants and stuff like that. She's been a big help in the beginning.
Yeah.
What we're trying to do, which I guess is different to her, is we're trying to take perennial vegetables. We're trying to like remove this idea that they're little funny niche things you put in your garden and they come back every year, and actually treat them as serious agricultural crops for the future. And so a lot of our work is about how do we grow perennial vegetables, but more importantly, how do we manage them to be farming systems as well.
Right.
So is it lots of cut and come again? Is it splitting and dividing, refreshing? Do we have beds on repetition? So a lot of the work, a lot of the research we've been doing is, we know what the plants are because there's so many people telling us what to grow. But now the mission is how do we put that into an actual agricultural system now, which is, so we're trialing it in a somewhat field scale, which we're just starting now. It's the first attempt, and we're doing it in a kind of market garden scale at the moment as well.
Right.
That'll be interesting.
Very interesting, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm blown away by them. You know, you kind of start and everyone says, "Oh, they go bitter and horrible," which some do. But to be honest, actually, I grow for chefs. That's my main market is chefs. And through those chefs, they've taken those perennials and turned them into things that I wouldn't imagine because I'm not a cook. And to be honest, the past 5 years we've been trialing this. It's through that confidence of like chefs and growing and trialing that we've finally committed to actually make the farm one that's basically 50% perennial and 50% annual. And so very much my goal is to make Birch Farm into a food forest market garden, and that's what we're going for.
Yeah.
So we don't grow in polytunnels. It's a commitment that we've made.
That's quite cool, actually.
Yeah, because again, my market is chefs, so no disillusion that the world isn't ready for perennial vegetables yet. But because I grow for chefs, it means I can basically grow these crops outside of a polytunnel and still sell them. So we don't grow polytunnels, and a big part of the farm has always been it's inspired by the idea of natural farming, and a lot of that natural farming is inspired from Japanese natural farming, which is one Manasoba Fukuoka of One Straw Revolution, but also Yoshikazu Kadoguchi, who was another Japanese natural farmer. So the farm philosophy always has to match natural farming. That's the key thing, and it's just felt like through that, trying to achieve that, food forests and perennial foods have just naturally become a part of that farming system for our climate anyway.
So many questions. So first of all, you said you don't think that we're ready for perennial vegetables.
No, so we are a 99.9% based annual species now. So our diet is 99.9% annual based. To change diets is a generational thing, like it just is. It's a very difficult thing to do once it's ingrained in us. There have been scenarios where it has changed very quickly, such as the Nordic diet. When I think it was Norway or Sweden had one of the most unhealthiest diets in the world, and the government did a huge push and made the Nordic diet. The Nordic diet ended up being one of the healthiest diets in the world. So we have seen diets change, in living memory. So it's not an impossible thing.
Yeah.
But for me is we know our climate is changing, like it's coming. Like we can argue, is it us or is it just the world, whatever. But whatever,
it's neither here nor there. It's happening.
It's changing, and we went past the first threshold last year, which is the coral reefs will begin to die back until eventually we lose all our coral reefs. There's nothing we can do about that now. There's no return. There's nothing that we can actually do to return that. So I very much see it as there's a mountain and there's a marble at the top, and it's just going to roll down this hill and get bigger and bigger and bigger, or a snowball effect down. And there's a lot of discussion what's going to happen. Will we live in this like Arctic area, or will we go hot? But generally what seems to be happening is the pattern is we are getting hotter. And so we're looking at a 4 degrees rise. wetter and hotter, yeah. And you know, with this super El Nino that is currently hitting us, it's looking like we're going to have an incredibly cold winter as well. And already that sounds impossible for annuals. So like just describing that already sounds okay. So what am I going to grow? The 4 degrees, so every degrees that we go up, our climate moves about 150 miles up. So we're looking at 4 degrees in the next 20 years, and we're looking at about 8 degrees in the next 50 years. So London will be like Mallorca, Manchester will be like London, Scottish borders will be like Kent and Sussex. And so this is coming in living time with most of us, to be honest. Yeah. And there's 2 outcomes to that as well. So one is that our biodiversity, which is literally on its knees as we speak anyway, is holding on for dear life, is that with that drastic change, they're not going to be able to adapt in time. So we're looking, at the moment, it's a hypothesis, but the hypothesis is we're going to lose about 50% of our native species of plants over the next 40 years, gone. So oak trees, birch trees, they'll be gone basically. So we're going to see one of the biggest changes in our landscape in such a short amount of time. And the other thing is that what's going to happen is that all of our farming that's currently based off will basically just collapse because it's already happening. Last year, the UK is down about 800 million in wheat and barley because we had wet winters and then we had hot summers. So all the barley was rotting and drying off in drought. So that was last year. So we could look at 1 billion this year. So it's already starting. And so for me, the biggest challenge for us now is how do we maintain resilient food, but how do we maintain resilient food that also benefits biodiversity and protects it? You know, so we're very adaptable as a species. It's why we are what we are now. You know, my fear is that we'll have a landscape of polytunnels and underground UV centres and all of these things that we seem to celebrate, but all of those farming practices push nature out. Like that's the thing. And so my belief is for the future, we must grow food as an ecosystem. It shouldn't be a human need. It should be an ecosystem. And the way that we do that is one through perennials, food forests, and annuals. And we utilise the perennials during the times that the annuals don't want to grow, and then we utilise the annuals in the time that the perennials want to take a break. And that's really how I feel the future of our food growing should progress, basically, with one of coexistence with biodiversity and all kind of like bracing the storm together kind of thing.
Yeah.
But my question is, you say we're not ready for perennial farming, and you talked about the Nordic diet, but the Nordic diet was a substantial shift, wasn't it, in terms of what people were consuming? Whereas perennial vegetables, you're talking about them as if they're, you know, something completely different to an annual veg, for example. Whereas we're not looking at changing the actual diet as such, because it's still vegetables. It's wonderful veg with all the wonderful nutrients and nutrition that we get from them. Yeah. So what is the issue? Because I appreciate that the farming industry is set up for annual farming.
Yeah, of course.
Is it so it's not a diet shift, it's an attitude shift, is it, presumably from the government, B
so I think
industry,
when I talk about diet shift, I think about the overall. So there's this absolutely brilliant man called there's 2 brilliant men actually. There's one called Wouter van Eck, who's a food forest farmer in the Netherlands. And there's another chap called Mark Shepherd, who wrote a brilliant book called Restorative Agriculture. And especially like Wouter takes our food pyramid, for example. And he says that what we need to develop for the future is a food forest pyramid. So we need to think about, okay, so things like carbohydrates and proteins, why don't we get all of that or partial some of that from nut trees and oak trees? And we supplement things like annual grains and other things like that. Do we look at more herbaceous vegetables in the summer, you know, rather than kind of like meat-based food, if you want to go down that route as well? And so what we need to do is we need to develop a diet that will also help direct the way that we farm into one that's more resilient. So yeah, perennial vegetables are vegetables, like we can sell them as vegetables and stuff like that. The problem is in social structure, especially, like not people who like really believe in this, but like everyone, is that it's quite difficult now when people are so used to buying things like courgettes in February, tomatoes 12 months of the year, strawberries 12 months of the year. It's quite hard. It's always been hard to like make people eat seasonal, and it's, you know, this,
of course,
the whole import thing was like a revolutionary thing, and at the time it was, but it's very difficult, and it's difficult when 95% of all food in this country is controlled by 10 supermarkets as well. And those 10 supermarkets dictate price of what we eat as well. So it's difficult. If I was a veg box seller, for example, and I was giving people things like Korean celery and perennial kale and walking onions and apios roots, they'd probably be like, "What on earth are you giving me? Like, where's my radish and kale and lettuce?" Salad is a really good one to talk about because, you know, salad is amazing, and polytunnels are amazing. Like every day I wish I had polytunnels, don't get me wrong. But,
of course, it's a dream.
But lettuce is a classic thing. Like, so we develop a perennial salad, and we spent a lot of time. I'm incredibly proud of the perennial salads that we create, because to be honest, they are 10 out of 10 and they blow the socks off any annual based salad, to be honest, in the early months. Mm-hmm. But what we found, if it doesn't contain lettuce, people just don't want to eat it because it's such a foreign thing to them.
Right.
So we use things like Tilia cordata leaves, staffleia leaves, tree leaves, herbs, you know, as Sichuan pepper leaves, and all of these things. And people are like, what, you know. So it's
they
quite
want to
difficult.
see their iceberg.
Yeah, it's quite difficult. But I will say as well that people are so open-minded to it as well. Like, you know, we sell in our shop and we sell salad. Salad is our most profitable thing, like any market garden. Like salad is the money maker. And now we add things like tree leaves and everything like that and all of this. And people are kind of like, at first, like, you know, what on earth are you giving me? But now there's people coming to buy that salad because they're quite excited about it.
Yeah.
And so Toby, our head chef, is an amazing cook for our pub. He's working on a dish now, which will be venison and a tree leaf salad. And so it'll be wild venison from the local area. Mm-hmm. And we're going to be picking loads of different tree leaves that we can add to salad. So the whole dish will be one of wild game and perennial tree leaves and foods.
Tell me what
like
trees you're picking leaves from.
Yeah, so our ones at the moment, so it changes through the season, but now the big one, our big bulk is lime tree, Tilia.
Yeah,
okay.
It's actually one of the most nutritional foods that we can eat in the north in our climate as well. You can't eat anything better for yourself. Mm-hmm. This time of year, you can basically get the tree and grab the whole mass of leaves with the green stem, and you can just eat that whole thing. And the green stem is soft enough that you can eat the green stem as part of that salad. So we literally grab bunches of the leaves and put it into the salad. We've got about 4 or 5 different species of Sichuan pepper, and they each have their own different flavour. They can be really tangy or citrus. So we pick multiple Sichuan pepper leaves. Amazing. We have a tree called bladder nut, which is Staphylea pinnata. That starts off as a salad tree leaf, and then it progresses into a cooked leaf. But now the leaves are quite tasty in that. And we pick the very young white mulberry leaves before that again becomes a cooked vegetable as well. So that makes a lot of it, and we've got a couple of hawthorns that we add to that, some late season hawthorns as well.
That's amazing.
That sounds absolutely fantastic, and you can just imagine all the nutrients that are in that variety of leaves that you're eating.
Yeah, so
packed with beneficial stuff.
The 5 most nutritional things that we can eat in this climate is lime leaf, it's white mulberry leaf, it's grapevine leaf like Dolmades.
Of course.
Yeah, goji berry leaf. Randomly, goji berry leaf is really good for you, and you can get a goji berry. You can get one from China, Chinense. That's not bitter because the one that we have everywhere is kind of bitter, but there's a Chinese one that isn't bitter, and then is saltbush as well, which tastes like sea salt. So that goes a lot into our salad as well, which is an Atriplex, I think, Atriplex humilis. So they are the 5 absolute most nutritional things that we can grow in our climate.
Right, and all those trees that you mentioned, are they all climate change proof?
Pretty much. So a lot of them come from, Atriplex comes from Australia, so it's incredibly used to things like drought. Tilia may be all right for a bit of time, but that one that may change. Grapevines will always be good because we can adapt grapevines. Also, Tilia is quite a broad genus anyway, so we just look at Tilias from hotter places, basically.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
Same with the lime.
Yeah, same with the limes and all of that. So we do it. So a lot of our agroforestry now, and this is something we took from Ben Law at Prickly Nut Wood, is we actually plant about 30% North American or Mediterranean species as part of our agroforestry now to get ready for that change. So all the oak trees that we planted into our nut forest, so we're developing a 3.5 acre nut forest, and we want acorns to play a big part of our diet again because they have the protein content for things like bread. So all those acorns have come from the Mediterranean or North America, certain parts of North America that get quite hot as well, or humidity as well. So we're planting lots of those on the farm now. It's like we do something called syntropic agriculture as well for our agroforestry, which is like very dense agroforestry planting. It relies a lot of pioneers to speed up succession. So at the moment, the pioneers are birch, alder, willow, and poplar. But we definitely know that maybe willows and poplars won't be something we can grow in time. And so now we're transitioning over to things like robineas. So we're going to use robineas instead because, again, they're a far more hotter season tree, basically.
On a recent episode of Gardener's World, they had Kevin Martin from Kew on.
Yeah.
Do you know Kevin? And
yeah.
he was talking about the importance of us needing to adapt from native trees, where it was always just, grow native, to actually now we do need to conscientiously look at non-native trees, or as they call them, exotics. And look across Europe, head over to Eastern Europe, get over to, so he was talking about the lime, for example, so the Romanian lime. That's going to be more able to cope with the drought and the heat, but also still tolerate, winters and frosts.
And that's the big thing. So Kew is the epicenter at the moment because Kew are noticing huge declines in their trees.
They lost a huge amount, didn't they, in 2022?
Yeah, because London is the hottest place in the country, basically, London. So it's a good early sign to what's changing and adapting. So things like amelanchias, we may no longer have amelanchias because amelanchias just don't like the drought. And there's always an argument. I always get, not in arguments, but discussions about like native, non-native, like. To be honest, what is native anymore?
In
the sense, it's so changed.
And I was arguing with someone the other day who wouldn't recognise stinger nettles as native because the Romans brought them over.
Oh, okay. I'm grateful to the Romans.
It's like, okay, so there's a tree that we love, which isn't a native, but it's been here long enough, we might as well call it, is Cornus mass.
Right.
And what we find with Cornus masses, so we're planting a lot of them, so we're hoping they're going to be quite, hopefully, drought resistant for the future, is that we can take the Cornus mass or the Canadian cherry. You get a lovely little tiny red berry off it that's kind of sweet, can be tart depending on what the tree is. But actually what you do is you pick it green, you brine it, you then put it in oil and it tastes exactly like olives. You honestly couldn't tell the difference. So we can grow things like European olives off these trees like Cornus mass and things like that.
Right.
So there's loads of possibilities. And like I said, the oak trees that were signed, so in America, they've continued to do a lot of tree breeding. And so they've bred acorns that are incredibly sweet and you can almost eat them off the tree. They've got such low tannins. And also the Mediterranean and Eastern Europe that still have very much a massive nut-based kind of like diet and economy. So we've taken lots of trees from those areas and that's what we're planting on the farm, basically.
Right.
Oh, that's really
so you're
cool.
really, essentially, you're embracing climate change. Right, well,
embracing the rest of the world.
Well, like I said, the whole farm started on this idea of natural farming, and my inspiration is wildlife and biodiversity. Like, I want every action that I do to have. So I do nothing is persecuted on the farm. Slugs are welcome. Cabbage whites are welcome. Everything is welcome. For who am I to say you're not welcome, kind of thing. So that's really the inspiration for me. But it just felt like no matter what we do, if we don't embrace the climate change and accept it and develop it, it doesn't matter how many habitat piles and minimal inputs I put into the farm, because if we don't embrace the farm ready for this change, we're just going to lose the biodiversity anyway. So a lot of what I do now is trying to create a resilient home that all the birds and insects and animals will hopefully have somewhere that will still be there, basically, in that time when we see these huge weather pattern changes.
Yeah. Well, we would start the conversation with our guests talking about how you were on Gardener's World and mentioning the episode that you were on, and but we have very happily launched straight into just some really incredibly interesting stuff. But I should mention that you were on Gardener's World in 2024 on episode 23, when Frances came to Birch Farm to have a look at your agroforestry setup there. At the time when she was there, how long had you been at Birch Farm for?
Was it last year or the year before? It was the year before, wasn't it?
It was 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah, so I had been at Birch Farm for coming up to 4 years by that point. So this is my 6th year now.
Okay. And you're a head gardener at Birch Farm. Is that your role? And who set up Birch Farm in the first incident? Were you involved in the
No, so I came on a couple of years later after it got set up. So what happened was, so we're in this village called Wolseley in North Devon. It's a beautiful little village, and it starts with the pub, like most things, I guess. But the pub was a ruin. It had a tree growing out of it. It was basically going nowhere. So I'm told there was a lot of discussion about what was going to happen to the pub. No one wanted to turn it back into a pub, and the village wanted a pub. So some of the villagers went to Michael Birch. Michael Birch is the owner of the collective at Wolseley. So it's Michael and Zocchi. They made Bebo many years ago and sold it and moved to America. But Michael's family comes from Wolseley, so some of them went to Michael and said, look, would you possibly buy the pub to keep it in the village? So we had a village pub. Michael loves the village like nothing. Like, Wolseley is his absolute passion. He always says there's 10 generations in the church graveyard, and his grandmother was born in the shop, and Chris, who's my counterpart for the animals of the farm, is Michael's cousin, and Chris's mum Jill works in the shop. So it's
a real family affair.
It's very much Michael's sister still lives in the village. So Michael said, I'd love to buy the pub and do something for the village. So Michael and Zocchi went in together and bought the pub. And then there was a fish shop, and the fish shop wanted to close down. So Michael was like, okay, I'll get the fish shop.
Just buy that then.
And then the shop was like, well, actually, I can't do anything anymore. So Michael was like, well, I'll get the shop. And then
his own little monopoly board.
And Michael was like, right, okay, that's it now. I don't want to, that's it. And but
investing.
Then Chris, who's a farmer as well, who's Michael's cousin, wanted a piece of land to farm. And so we are surrounded by massive dairy, like huge dairy here. So to get your own land is impossible, because it gets bought up by these massive dairies. And so Michael bought a small farm so Chris could raise animals, and Michael was like, you might as well raise the animals for the pub. And then my side was a field that Chris basically didn't want, so it was kind of decided that we should grow vegetables there. And then my boss, who's Emily, so Emily is the managing director, and a lot of it is Emily's vision as well. Emily really wanted a farm that was one about like sustainability and everything like that. So I came on about 2 years after it all started, when it was still just a field.
Wow.
And then chatting to Emily, it was very much, saying to Emily, like, look, this is a one chance opportunity that we have a blank field, and we can actually really think about a farm. So I was desperate to do natural farming. So I was very lucky to get a fellowship to work in places like Japan and America. And in America, I was studying things like regenerative horticulture and agriculture. And in Japan, I was doing horticulture, but my passion for natural farming as well. So I looked into that. Really hard to adapt natural farming in public gardens, which kind of pushed me towards food growing a bit.
Interesting.
And I was telling to Emily, like, look, this is an opportunity to do something different. One, create a farming system that doesn't require mountains of compost to be bought in, mountains of wood chip to be bought in. Let's actually create a farm which is one about ecosystems and ecology. And Emily, thankfully wanted a food forest to begin with anyway.
So we were
always going to create a food forest, and then that started that passion on the farm, and we've just gone on and on and on each year, basically developing that idea.
150 acres, is that right?
Yeah, so my side is 17, and then the rest is for animals.
Okay.
So Chris looks after heritage pigs, heritage sheep. We have chickens for eggs. We used to have cows. We don't have cows anymore at the minute. We're having a rest. And that's all the meat for the restaurant as well. So I look after the vegetables, fruits, nuts, and berries, and Chris looks after the animals. But 180 in total, actually,
180.
because there's a 10-acre forest that we have, which I manage in the winter for things like building materials, and we're trying to basically we're developing an ecological coppice plan, which is only coppicing corridors at a time, because it's a lovely oak hornbeam forest that's just been swamped by willows from abandonment. And to have forest in this area, we're incredibly lucky, because basically most of this landscape is pine plantation or dairy. So we're very lucky to have a little tiny forest as part of our farm as well.
How fantastic. So then on the show you talked about how a power station had been destroyed, and you were able to get a few hundred tons of rubble from them.
Rubble.
And so that's what we saw you and Frances walking through, was this rubble garden, sort of a gravel garden. Really.
Yeah.
Did you already think we need to get a shed load of rubble to create a gravel garden? Or was it because you heard that the power station was being destroyed, you thought we can make use of that?
No, so so basically the first year of the farm was kind of like project managing, deciding things, like Emily kind of like explaining what we wanted to create and discussions and everything like that. basically just waiting. And then what happened was we started the farm at the furthest end of the field, and we basically kind of worked our way back. So we did like the orchard, and that orchard is now being transformed into an agricultural food forest. But we started with the orchard, and then we did the food forest, and then we did the produce field, and then we did bits and bobs, and then we ended up with this kind of like 3/4 of an acre space. Part of that, Emily really wanted a cut flower garden because Emily's an amazing florist as well. So I really wanted to kind of give Emily that cut flower garden. So we made part of it a cut flower garden. The potting shed has sand borders as well, sharp sand borders. And then we ended up with this strip of just basically flat pasture ground left. The last bit of the farm, actually, it was the last part of the old pasture. And talking to Emily, we were discussing what we should do, and Emily was like, "Well, we definitely want an ornamental garden. We basically don't need any more food. Like that's another big thing. Like we just don't need any more food." And so it was an opportunity again to do something quite exciting. And talking to Emily, I really wanted to like do something different again. I didn't just want a flat garden. And I had spent a little bit of time with a gardener called Peter Korn in Sweden, who grows in sharp sand, and I really wanted to kind of mimic what I had learned with Peter. And this was the time when kind of like John Little was kind of like really pushing this idea of rubble gardens and everything like that. So, and really for me as well, the ornamental has to match the philosophy of the farm. Like that was a big part of it. I didn't want to create this whole natural farming system.
No, that would be weird, wouldn't it?
That would be so weird. And look, and then here's this pristine ornamental garden.
So we didn't want to do that. We have a beautiful view of Dartmoor in the distance as well on our horizon. And I was always fascinated by my time in America. I went to a talk in America, and I was talking about like gardens and ecological topography. You know, building these gardens with mounds and humps and dips and swales and stuff like that. So I really wanted to do that as well.
That's quite cool.
And because it had to be a garden for biodiversity more than anything, this idea of like taking recycled aggregates, you know, I really wanted to do. So I basically just rung around, and I rung a hauler, and he was like, "Oh, you're in luck because Yelland, half an hour away, have just demolished their massive power station.
God, stroke of luck.
And they have mountains and mountains and mountains of it. They test it for you, so you don't get. Everyone thinks there's like uranium in it. There's no uranium.
Yeah, I was just going to ask if there were any.
No, it's all clean. Like they test it and everything.
You don't have to
that.
worry about asbestos or anything.
No,
like that.
no. There's none of that. They don't have any of that. And then it comes in at £11 a ton, basically.
Wow.
So so it's pretty cheap. So if I got
nice.
compost, it would have been about £35 to £40 a ton.
Yeah.
And so we rented again. Keith Wiley's like a massive inspiration for me as well.
And of course.
So me, Martin the handyman, and Arthur, who was one of our young lads, we basically just rented a digger and dumper for 2 weeks, and we just built
I bet
these
that was
mounds
so
and
much
bumps.
fun.
Yeah, we just looked like a BMX park for about the first couple of weeks.
I can
So
imagine.
being your own private beach, just building sandcastles.
So we made all these mounds. I knew I had to get the rubble at about 8 inches to stop the germination from the weed bank in the ground. So we kind of did that, but we made incredibly steep surfaces that plants struggle to colonize in, so they stay consistently bare, so things like solitary bees have a place to go. We made big high mounds. The big mounds had these bowls cut into them, which were south facing, and they had a lip, and the lip protected it from the wind, so that there was these sunbathing bowls protected from the wind, so we get loads of things like snakes and lizards and beetles in there.
Wow.
The mounds that we made, we took loads of construction waste like pipe and slate and pallets, and we buried loads of that under the mound, so that when the queen bumblebee finds her way through, she has this like nest in the center.
Yeah,
that's great.
So we basically just took recycled scraps and rubble and everything we could, and we built this garden. And for me as well, I learned this in America. I can't remember where I learned it. I worked in this garden called Mount Cuba, and I feel like someone told me about that. And then I read this book in America from this American gardener who was advocating planting everything bare root. Like you plant everything bare root because it makes the plant stronger and all of that. I always loved that idea. And when I was at Chicago Botanical Gardens, they were talking about this idea that we should bare root plant more because it's just far better for the plants. And so when we did this, I wanted to plant it predominantly bare root. So everything apart from the warm season grasses, because they just don't like that, everything apart from the warm season grasses, we planted as bare root plants as well, little tiny roots. So the garden was just planted as roots as well. So we try to cut as much like compost and pot and Osmocote and labels out as possible. So yeah, and it kind of blew us away, to be honest. So I mean, it's looking pretty spectacular now, and it hasn't been watered for 3 years now.
The bare root planting is a revelation for us.
Yeah.
We have a patch of land which is very, very steep and south facing, and it's terrible. It's an old field, farmer's field. So we went about building terraces into the hill, and everything was plug plants because we couldn't afford anything else.
Yeah.
And with trees as well, we did tiny little trees. I would say we had about a 70% success rate with those. Then we came across bare roots. And that was it. We're never looking back. They went in the ground. They have flourished. They are so solid. They're not going anywhere. They couldn't look healthier, and they've grown faster as well. So it's the way forward for us.
Yeah. And I mean, we're so lucky to have nurseries like Howard's. You know, Howard's are incredibly generous with their bare roots. They'll literally send you a Hemorrhacalis that you can split down like 10 more times and plant. So
that's nice.
So we're lucky. And in Europe, again, in Europe and America, like bare root is this massive, massive thing. In the UK, we just don't have it.
Oh, really?
Because I always feel like pre-Brexit, we relied so much on Europe for everything that we kind of just buy it in. And then when Brexit happened, of course, we just weren't prepared for going on our own. So in Europe and that, you have this amazing bare root culture and planting. But there are some ones like Johnny Bruce and Daniel. They've just made a nursery. And Johnny Bruce worked for De Hessenhoff in De Hessenhoff Nursery. And I think he's going to be developing a lot of bare root plantings as part of his him and Daniel's nursery. So it is coming in as well. So it seems like it. And we at Birch Farm, we want to sell more perennial vegetables to people. And to be honest, I think I'm just going to sell them as bare root plants, to be honest.
Yeah.
And you know, we'll just send them out as bare root plants and cuttings like Mandy does almost with her.
Make it the new
kales.
norm.
But I was blown away by it. And like I said, we haven't irrigated for 3 years and it's absolutely flourishing. We don't have to stake it because the plants grow as they want to. It's amazing beetle habitat, bee habitat. We have areas that are really thickly planted that you can't see the rubble. So things like frogs and toads and amphibians or whatever can hide in it. And then we have open spaces that are really good for sunbathing and hunting and everything like that as well. So
that sounds incredible.
How do you plant a bare root plant straight into rubble?
We literally just pull it with a hurry and drop it in and cover it back up again.
And that
we irrigate for the first year. And then after that, we just don't have to irrigate anymore.
That's incredible.
I mean, when I went, I've worked in high-end gardens in my career, and when I went to Peter Korn, the idea of growing in sand with this idea that everything is about fertility and compost, and then hearing Peter Korn say that he never irrigates these gardens was mind-blowing. But it kind of showed it, and a lot of it is because soil is a living organism that's actively drawing and using moisture, whereas sand is quite an inherent material that's just static, that it doesn't have that drawing effect. So like with your plugs, when you pop it in with compost, the soil is actively trying to draw the moisture out of that plug. Whereas if we planted things like rubble, you just don't get that. And at the time, Peter Korn was doing this research with Malmo University, and they were finding he was having these amazing mycorrhizal connections in the sand as well.
All right.
Because basically all these fungi had no competition, so they were just running rampant. So he was doing all these like big root-based like mycorrhizal things and stuff like that.
Oh, how interesting!
But for me, like a lot of it as well is it must come from recycled means. Sand is one of the highest commodities on the planet, basically. And so what's amazing is we can actually just use it as recycled material as well. So our sharp sand borders came from a builder who didn't want the sharp sand anymore. We grow all of our food forest plants in sharp sand beds. And all that sharp sand came from a builder who didn't want it anymore. And then our rubble garden was built from recycled aggregate from a power station.
Right, so this brings us on to another point, because on the show you talked about compost versus your bokashi that you're using, and you said, so the compost produces greenhouse gases, and you lose about 60% en masse to the atmosphere, as opposed to bokashi where it's only 1% that you're losing, and you don't use compost at all at Birch Farm. So that's because you are using things like sand and the rubble as your...
Not for the vegetables. Yeah. Vegetables are grown without compost.
Yeah.
Farm soil, yeah.
Right, so that's an interesting concept, is it, to try and get your head around when you're, as you say, you're always taught about compost and the importance of getting your compost right.
Yeah.
So that explains it then, because we were both wondering, well, what do you do then if you're not using compost? Bokashi isn't going to cover it,
No.
So perennial vegetables can grow in rubble perfectly happily because they're perennial. So one thing that I'm working with my ornamental gardener Grace is actually we could create, I don't know what you call them, like landscapes or whatever. Perennial vegetables we can grow in rubble and sand. So for the perennial vegetable side, we can grow them in recycled aggregates, never have to irrigate our perennial vegetables, and they'll grow perfectly happily and fine in that. So we've done that. So things like sea kale, Rebecca lacernata is a really beautiful perennial vegetable and it's an ornamental. Things like saltbush, perennial kales, they all thrive in the rubble, basically. So you can do that for that. But a big part of me on the farm, so natural farming has these kinds of natural farming is a philosophy, I find, more than anything. It's not a set of instructions. It's not kind of like do this and do that. It very much is a philosophy, and it's your kind of outlook on nature and food and where it should come from. So Manasoba Fukuoka, who's the natural farmer that inspired me the most, he lays out these rough rules to kind of get you started, but there is no kind of like rule set for it. But one of the things the few things that he says is it must be no weeding, no composting, no fertilizer, and no digging, basically. And the principles within that is that natural farming must be one that we don't take a scientific approach. We celebrate the mystery of nature and everything being successful. Like we can tell if a system works or not without having to look under a microscope and deconstruct it down to the absolute atom. So he's very much that farming should be one of kind of mysticism and joy and passion and everything like that. So one of the first steps then basically was that we didn't want to use compost. Reason I don't want to use compost is you can't make enough compost to mulch your beds because you're losing that 60%. So you have to grow that extra 6% to make compost. To make good compost, I would have to use a tractor. So I'm adding another fuel commitment on the farm and another massive machine on the farm. I have to measure moisture levels. I have to turn it. I have to do all these procedures to make this compost that cost me time, labour and energy as part of that. Making compost does make a really nasty greenhouse gas. It does make a nasty greenhouse gas as well. So you're contributing to that to some degree. And I used to do, so I've done massive studies in compost, and a lot of my time in America was looking at composting and regenerative agroforestry and agriculture and everything like that. So the only way that I could mulch my beds is if I buy council compost. And I will never buy council compost because it's riddled with plastic. I don't control what goes into it.
You have no clue what you're getting, do you?
No, all sorts.
And you don't know what goes into. So whatever people put into that. So I've never believed in this idea that when it reaches the farm, I reset the carbon clock. I'm using it for good. So if that council compost is made with plants that have been ripped out of gardens or bits of meat or whatever, we have to recognize that's part of it as well, and we're contributing to that. And so I didn't want council compost, so the only alternative was we have to develop a system that doesn't require compost, basically. Wood chip, this idea that wood chip is this free material that you get, that was 20 years ago. You could get wood chip for quite cheap and free 20 years ago. Now wood chip is more expensive than compost is as well. So we don't want that input on the farm either because we can't afford it. And again, we don't know where it comes from. So a big part of the farm is how we do it. So it's stepping into the unknown because, again, I was told, every bed needs composting. I started in horticulture during the big no-dig movement as well, where it was all thick compost and stuff like that. What I personally felt as well is that once we mulch the bed and once we mulch the path, do it on an acre, you've basically suppressed that entire landscape to meet your needs. And you've taken every single weed out, you've taken every single habitat out, you've removed absolutely everything, and you've basically mulched this landscape where nothing else can really use it apart from the soil, microbes, the worms, and you. And I didn't want that because I got a lot of what's about biodiversity. So what we do on the farm now is we require weeds. Weeds are a big part of our fertility program. We grow in polyculture, so every vegetable bed must have 5 families in it at one time and 1 aromatic herb at one time. We rely on things like chop and drop. We rely on things like agroforestry to build the fertility. So we use trees as one of our biggest fertility builders as well. The trees do a lot of the fertility management for us.
And so in what way? So taking the leaves?
Yeah, so we had things
as
like
mulch.
Ulmus cordata or robinia, that fixes all our nitrogen. We had things like chestnuts that fix our phosphorus.
So you...
The trees basically bring all the minerals and fertility up. They also drop the leaves as well.
Yeah.
So we create leaf litter on the farm. And the whole fertility program of the farm is basically treating it as much of an ecosystem as possible and allowing that ecosystem to manage the fertility for us. And all we do is we just plant food into it. That's basically all we do.
Right.
And what we found year on year is our fertility has gone up. We've just had a PhD student do a soil profile on us. So he compared natural farming, which was us, to a conventional farm, to an organic no-dig farm. Yeah. Out of all of them, ours was 8% fertility. So we had 8% fertility compared to the organic, which was 2.5. And we had 10 times the soil organisms compared to the other systems as well.
Wow.
And that's kind of blown his mind. And he's completely changing his PhD now on that.
Did it blow your mind to hear those?
Yeah. I mean, 5% fertility is regarded as like apex kind of like gold standard. And we were a dairy pasture 6 years ago. We were slurry, compaction, monoculture 6 years ago. And basically from that, we know that our fertility, and we've never seen a fertility problem. And there's an amazing scientist called Dr. Christine Jones, and she has now starting to release her data. And she took the whole soil food web idea and kind of like broke it down. And from her findings, actually, it's not compost, it's not wood chip, it's not just mycorrhizae. Actually, how we create fertility in ecology is polyculture, diversity, and chop and drop. We recognise all the fungi, the saprophytic fungi that break stuff down. They are just as important as the mycorrhizae. And so that's what we've done since the get-go, basically. Right. And it's through diversity and polycultures that actually we can maintain fertility perfectly happily.
Wow, that is fascinating. And it's a total mindset change, isn't it?
Yeah. A lot of it comes down to the fact that when you grow like we do, there's always slugs and, the worry of that. We had awful slugs in the beginning. Apocalyptic. I can't even describe it. Like the first couple of years, slugs. I had an existential crisis. I was like, I believe in this and it's failing. I had to go back home and get a hug from my mum. And they literally, the slugs ate the... So we planted well over 3,000 trees. God, masses. They ate every single leaves off the tree, like all the leaves. So for the first year, none of the trees had leaves because the slugs ate the leaves off the trees. And we had one bed. So Russell, who's my senior grower, we have one bed. It was like 10 meters by 1. He picked 3 kilos of slugs just off that one bed.
Oh my gosh, that's disgusting.
Yeah, and the ground was moving. The ground used to move, and they would come out in the day. Amazing. They would come out at night, and it was apocalyptic.
Gosh, it is really wet.
So
did you guys?
Did you build a pond then to get?
So we built a pond, but this is one of the problems we're going to have with our farming as well. Is that when you go from a conventional or a very manicured garden or farm, and you start to transition into one of ecology and nature and wilderness, you create this imbalance. Yeah. And what happens is the predators take 10 times longer to come back than the I don't want to say pests, but the things that want to eat everything, the natives.
Yeah.
And, so a good example is this. So when this was happening, we hired an ecologist, John, because we wanted to document everything we did and if we were doing it right and have some data on what we were doing. And so I was like, John, look, the slugs are like eating I can't actually stop them. And he was like, so what you need is beetles. So like beetles is the key thing. Yeah. So you don't have any beetles. And like he puts it, like if you took a wild landscape full of beetles and life and ecosystem and you ploughed that field, it would take 8 years from the day of stopping that ploughing for the beetles to basically come back. Right. Whereas the slugs will come back 10 minutes later.
Straight in.
So that's the we're in this like perpetual motion of like we kind of like keep everything out, but the pests kind of thrive in it and so on. So like John said, John was like basically grit your teeth and fight
Hang
through
on
it.
In there. Yeah.
So I talked to the chefs,
sense, doesn't it?
Well, so this is another important thing. So having a discussion with your buyer, your market. So I talked to the chefs and I said, look, we are really struggling with these, but actually the slugs are leaving these alone. And so what they did, all of them, is they changed their menus or whatever, recipes, for the things that we
Slug
could grow.
risotto.
We grew them en masse. Yeah, or slugs or snails. We
The
grew those en
anti-slug
masse,
dinner.
and we could still have a market during that hard time.
Mhm.
And I'm so glad we persevered and kept our standard, because now I just don't worry about them. They're just
But it says a lot about your
Fantastic.
team. The fact that you persevered despite your
Yeah.
existential crisis, but that everyone trusted you and said, "Yeah, Josh, okay, we're there, we're behind you on this," and they hung in there as well. Because
Yeah.
it
Do
takes faith,
this.
doesn't it? Because it's not a short period of time that
yeah,
it
yeah,
happens over.
yeah. And to be
Just
honest,
letting nature
now,
redress the
so
balance.
in the beginning we were putting boards down to capture the slugs, and we were putting hundreds of meters of boards out and flipping them every day. And I was wondering, what are we doing? What am I doing with my life now? I wouldn't cut them, so I'd chuck them over the fence, and they'd just come back
Just
again.
crawl back
I didn't
again,
want to
yeah.
kill them. But now we persevered, and now we have an ecosystem that manages itself, and we don't have to worry. We can grow broad beans and lettuces and cabbages right next to grass bank verges in thick weed mulches, and they won't touch anything anymore, because there's so many beetles, centipedes, birds, mice, voles, reptiles, newts, snakes. They're all there now. So now the amount of labour that I save, to not have to worry about it, is a huge saving for the farm as well, financially. And so really persevering through it has actually paid off better for us.
It is,
because we just do nothing.
It's lower maintenance now.
We don't net brassicas. We don't net anything. We always have predatory birds hunting the mice and voles, and the predatory birds seem to keep the pigeons away. So we never have to net or fleece. And cabbage whites, the minute the cabbage whites land on the farm, they just get hit by parasitic wasps, and they're gone a few days later.
Oh, that's great.
And we want cabbage whites, and we want slugs, and we build those habitats for them as well. Because beetles, for example, beetles are absolutely fascinating. Like, beetles are nature's response to slugs. Like, the reason, like, slugs play an incredibly important role in our ecosystem. It's why we don't walk around in 2 foot of sludge everywhere. But to make sure that the slugs don't eat everything, nature gave us beetles, and the beetle larvae will eat the slug eggs. The young slugs will eat the baby. The young beetles will eat the baby slugs, and then the adult beetles will eat the adult slugs by jumping on their back, running up, and chew from the neck down.
Lovely.
We have the snail-eating beetle as well, who has a long nose, and he pokes it in the shell and sucks the snail out. So we have those 2 beetles.
Oh my
brutal.
gosh, that's so cool.
And what's amazing is beetles also eat weed seeds, so they also keep the weeds down for us.
Right.
So one of their main food sources, some of these beetles,
Absolutely
one of their main food
brilliant.
sources is weed seeds. So by having the weeds as part of our farming system, we also give food for the beetles, and they keep the weeds down for us as well by eating the weed seeds. It's
Everyone's
absolutely
happy.
fascinating. It's so fascinating.
It's
Victorians, if you ever go to a Victorian garden and you see this sunk garden with slate around it, beetles are the worst climbers in nature. They can't climb. And that was how the Victorians kept beetles in density in their vegetable gardens, by sinking the garden and putting slate on the edge. Yeah.
So the Victorians knew what they were doing.
Yeah. And
Interesting.
when I went to the farm, when I first came to the farm, when it was a pasture, there was no sound, no life, no birds. I come from Sussex, East Sussex, which is heavy forest and hedgerow and birds. And it was almost like I was in an echo chamber, to be honest. It was a bit strange. But since we've started this, what we've done, we've got song thrushes, blackbirds, blue tits, sparrows, swallows. They've all come back to the farm. Beautiful. And the song thrushes and blackbirds are aggressive slug predators, really aggressive. And with our agroforestry now as well, in our produce field and food forests and everything, they literally just go to the top of a tree and zip back down, and they're actively hunting all the time. And because we allow so many weeds to grow on the farm, they also run in the weeds and hide in them and jump out and get the slugs. So natural farming is about making an ecosystem. The ecosystem manages itself, and we're just part of that. We just add food to it. If you're having to like pick the slugs out and put the pellets down and net everything and fleece everything, that's an imbalance in nature, which we try to step away from.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hats off to you for sticking at it, having the foresight, sticking at it, getting everybody on board as well, and coming out the other side off that tough early stage to now this really rather nice utopian setup that you have where everything's working in harmony. It's an important lesson for everyone to hear.
Well-oiled machine.
Well-oiled machine. Very much.
Like I said, it's tough in the beginning because it will come back.
Yeah,
I do believe keep it tough. What was it? Treat them tough, keep them keen.
Treat them mean, keep them keen.
That's it. Yeah. So I do I do honestly think that is a big part of it.
Yeah.
And Manasu Fukuoka talks about like when human beings supplement things, we create problems. All problems on the planet are from us supplementing something.
Yeah, or adding something which doesn't need to be there.
Yeah, so if we over-irrigate, plants become dependent on irrigation. If we over-compost, plants become dependent on compost fertility. Like, plants are incredibly lazy things. Like, if you give them what they want, they kind of don't feel the need to do it themselves.
Yeah.
And it just feels like if you garden or farm on the periphery of kind of wild but managed in that sense, it just sorts itself out. It's people don't believe me, but like I said, we just don't worry. We have rabbits on the farm. They leave the vegetables alone because they have so much food from other things that we leave wild on the farm as well. Yeah. It's just the only thing we have.
Birds of prey that get the rabbits.
Yeah, we have birds of prey that get the rabbits as well. We have foxes. We've got badgers. Like I said, we've got snakes as well.
Yeah.
We've got adders and grass snakes back.
Beautiful.
And the whole thing just ticks over on its own. We're just there, kind of like just adding what we want to it, basically.
So here's my question. What would you recommend to people like ourselves? So our setup is we've got 9 beds boarded because we, as I said, we're on a hill, so we had to create these terraces.
Yeah.
And we went no dig, so we sort of filled with various things from the rest of the garden.
Yeah.
So we've got all sorts of soil in there. But nonetheless, they're in beds. So then we did your standard Charles Dowding cardboard down, then some compost on top. We've been planting into these beds. We also make our own compost.
Yeah.
We're until this conversation, trying to build that up.
I'm also saying I am not anti-compost. People think someone called me the Dark Charles Dowding a few months ago. I'm not anti-no dig. I'm not anti-compost in any shape or form. Like, I've literally, I traveled to America to look at compost, and I'm not anti-compost. Like,
it's okay. We believe you.
People think I don't hate compost. It's like people think I hate annual vegetables. I don't. Broad beans and courgettes are my favourite things to eat in the world.
If we wanted to get to a setup like yours, what would be your 5-step plan to get to what you have there at Birch Farm?
So
that's a good question.
One of the things that's kind of like going into starting the farm, and still today, to be honest, was always like going into the unknown. It was always like, I've got this idea and this philosophy, but will it work? I don't know. And it's been 5 years of people telling me it's not going to work as well. So when you've got people saying, "Oh, it can't work. You can't do that." No.
No wonder you needed a hug from your mum.
You need compost. You need this. You need that. It was always like, "Oh God, I'm a bit scared now to do this."
Yeah, of course.
Like I said, I am so lucky to have Emily as my boss. Like, Emily's American, and Americans generally are quite like, yeah, let's do this, let's get up and go.
Right.
So I've always been incredibly lucky to have Emily support me in everything I do as well, and believe in what we can do. But I will say that what has taught me as a professional gardener, kind of like starting out in high-end horticulture and working that, is the idea of competition just doesn't exist. It's absolutely false. Like, plants, from my view on the farm now, do not want to create. So nature doesn't create competition. Nature creates harmony, really. The competition comes from us. Again, we create the competition. There are outliers in that, like there are in every single society on the planet. Like, there are a few things. So I'm not saying like plant Leylandii and cherry laurel everywhere. Like, they are the outliers.
Yeah.
But what I have found on the farm, which has totally amazed me, is that plants want to work in a symbiotic relationship with each other. Like, they just don't want to create competition. And that's including weeds, apart from grass. Again, grass is that outlier. That they just want to work together to help each other. And so the first thing I say to people now, like, there is no reason to plant vegetables as monocultures anymore. Like, you're just planting vegetables as a monoculture is basically making it harder for you. So Dr. Christine Jones, what's come out of her research is that plant competition only happens when you plant the same thing in one bed at one time. Because what happens is, as that harvest is coming, so say your squashes, for example, they all start to take the same amount of nutrients at the same time to do the same job. And if I was planted in a bed on repetition with 50 of me, I would end up going absolutely ballistic as well. So So honestly, like and that's both in trees, agroforestry, annuals, and perennials. Like you just grow as a polyculture. So what we do is 5 vegetable families that you like, you put them in the bed at one time, and you put an aromatic herb in every bed. Whether or not you're going to pick that herb, it doesn't matter. Like the aromatic herb is there to release aromatics, which are healing to the soil and plants. They also deter things like slugs and cabbage whites. A lot of things that eat our food don't like high fragrance as well. And a lot of the herbs are also umbellacea. So diversity and polyculture of flowers is also important. Mm-hmm. So this is a really good one. So like brassicas before they go into a woody stage aren't very good fungal kind of like fixers. So what we like to add is things like monocots, like a grass, like a well-behaved grass, which are quite good at bringing in fungi. And so we can do that through polyculture. And so, like I said, always go for 5 vegetable families in one bed at one time, and an aromatic herb or multiple aromatic herbs in that bed as well. And I honestly think that is probably the most important thing from a fertility point of view. Go for like root depth, so go for shallow roots, deep roots, lateral roots. So shallow roots are easy, salad basically, just put salad plants in. Deep roots are your rooty crops. You add a brassica into that as well. You want to add a pea into that as well for nitrogen fixing. Yeah. And then you can add a aromatic herb, and that's your 5 vegetable families or families in that bed at one time. When you start to grow with weeds, those weeds are going to drive up the polyculture as well. So weeds play a fundamental part of our soil fertility. So things like docks are bringing up minerals, dandelions are bringing up minerals and calcium, for example. Stinger nettles are mineral accumulators as well. So the weeds play a really key role. And what we do is we farm the weeds. So they're also our chop and drop plants. So weeds are our mulches throughout the year to help us with irrigation problems as well. And we eat a lot of the weeds as well. So we do foraging in the veg beds. So stinger nettle is probably one of our most popular vegetables, to be honest.
We've had those.
So we can use those as well as cash crops or eating for ourselves as well. I think once the weeds get into our beds, our polyculture can be about 20 different types of plant or family in one bed at one time.
Okay. So we get all that set up. We've got our 5 different types. We've got our weeds in there. We've got our aromatic herb. Then what are we doing on this whole compost front? Yeah. What's our situation there?
So we do compost. We do bokashi. So that's the only composting that we do is bokashi.
Right.
And we do that for potting mix. So we make our own potting mix on the farm pretty much.
But how do you do that? Because the bokashi thing is the waste from it. You get the juice, which is quite a good fertilizer.
Yeah.
But then the waste from it, that's not compost. That can't be used immediately whatsoever.
Yeah. So what you do is you make a bokashi bin outside on soil.
Yeah.
You fill up the bokashi bin in one go, ferment it, and then you leave it. And then what happens? The worms get into it. The worms then break it down for you, and then a year later you get a vermicompost out of it. So that's what we do.
But how is that not just composting though?
It's not compost. It's not getting turned or moisture or anything like that. So the worms do it for us. So it's a vermicompost through their gut, basically. It's the worm poop. Is how we do it. Yeah.
So you take that, which is a fraction of the quantity that you get with a compost heap, for example.
Yeah. So when you let the worms break it down, they're going to remove you're not going to get the mass back out again like you do in compost. So we do 2 bokashi composting. So our potting mix is we have an airtight bin in our glass house. We fill it up in one go with things like farm waste, leaves, brash, whatever we can find. We then
what
build
sort of volume is that bin?
So the bin can make about 4-ton bags, basically.
Oh right. Okay.
So it's probably about 1.5 high, and I think it's 3 meters long.
So a big unit.
And it's about 80 centimeters deep.
That's industrial.
So we fill that up with stuff. Every foot layer they put in, the guys will add something called lactobacillus that we make on the farm. It's basically whey. It has the microbe lactobacillus in it, which is the main microbe in bokashiing. We'll pour it on in watering cans, and then we'll tread it like we're pressing grapes with our feet. That pushes the oxygen out. And then we add a layer of hay, which is our carbon source as well. And it's also it's a really good home for the microbes as well. And then they'll put the hay on it, press it down, and then they do that until they get to the top. When we get to about a foot off the top, the guys will put a really thick layer of soaking wet hay on top. Mm-hmm. That's to stop the oxygen getting in. And then they put the lid on top. It ferments for about 3 months. We use it as a table in that time as well. And then after it's fermented, instead of taking it out and burying it or whatever, we leave it. And then the worms get in, and then the worms break it down over 9 months, and then they basically make us a vermicompost. And that's the way we make potting mix. And then what we do with our potting mix is we take that. We also take farm loam, so we harvest loam from the farm, and our potting mix is farm loam, vermicompost from the bokashi, biochar, and IMO, which is an inoculant that we make on the farm as well.
I see. Okay.
And that's the only composting we do. We do have another bokashi system, which is, we don't really use it, but we take loads of farm waste, like leafy greens and everything like that. Chris can supplement it with his manure that he has from his animals.
Oh, yeah.
And we make a huge fermented bokashi pile.
Wow.
And that gets fermented. The worms don't break it down because it's so big, but it's fermented and it comes out like a fermented material as well. And so through bokashi, manure especially, so if anyone's dealing with manure, when you bokashi it, you basically cut the methane chain off, so you don't create methane anymore, which is amazing. Mm-hmm. You get 98% of the bulk weight that you put in back out as well.
Fantastic.
And it retains all of the nutrients as well because it stops the leaching out of it as well. So we don't use manure on the farm, but for anyone who does do manure practices, bokashi is the way to do it. Like chicken bedding, ferment your chicken bedding, all of that, is really important. And through that, simplest way to do that as well is with your chickens, when you feed them grain, add a bit of lactobacillus, it will ferment in their gut, they'll poop it out into the bedding will become inoculated, and the bedding will basically bokashi. Same with cows and animals, if you spray lactobacillus in the barn where the animals are, they'll tread it in for you, so when you scoop that manure out at the end of the season, it's basically already fermented like bokashi, and you just seal it up.
So, Josh, for your dream garden, what would be the garden boundary if you want one at all? So, surrounding your dream garden.
So, I would make a edible windbreak or hedge.
Right.
And it would consist of things like Elaeagnus umbellata, gumi, Scotch pine, Lycisteria berry, different hawthorns like Crataegus dubravensis, the really delicious edible hawthorns. Willow, because I just love willow, and probably Elaeagnus abingii as well for winter berries. And I'd put loads of things like hazelnuts and wine berries and tay berries and loganberries and blackcurrants in that as well.
So everything you mentioned there is edible?
Everything's pretty much, apart from the willow, but everything's
apart
edible.
Apart from the willow, okay. Yeah. So the pine, what are you eating on the pine?
So the pine, so we're actually picking it now. So the pine, you take the very young cones as they're green right now, and you ferment them, and then you can eat them raw.
Right. Interesting. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, they're really delicious.
And with your dream garden and this border, how big are you imagining your garden to be?
I would like it to be about an acre.
An acre, okay.
Big garden,
lovely.
A big garden.
And whereabouts?
I mean, I am a Sussex boy, so I'd love Sussex.
Yeah.
In
I wonder if you'd go back
Get
there.
away from the wet.
Always Sussex, yeah.
Yeah, a bit drier over there.
And what view would you like?
I would like the view that my mum has, which is I would like the garden into a farm field, into a ancient forest in the distance.
Oh, what a lovely view your mum's got.
Yeah.
Is that where you grew up?
That's where I grew up, yeah.
Same house. Fantastic. So she's over in Sussex then?
Yeah, yeah. Well, she's 1 mile from Dixter's front door. That's basically where we are.
Right.
Oh, that's
exactly
nice.
1 mile. Yeah, Beckley.
That's a great spot. Then, the question of questions, shed or a greenhouse?
It'd have to be a greenhouse.
Right.
Oh, what are we talking? Shape, size, colour?
My greenhouse it'd be pretty big. It would be at least probably 5 meters high.
Ooh,
wow.
It'd probably be 20 meters long by 20 meters wide.
Yeah, why not?
And it would be an indoor food forest, a tropical food forest.
Right.
Oh,
okay.
I like that.
Exactly like Martin Crawford's.
Yeah. So you wouldn't want to be anywhere else in the world. You'd definitely want to be in the UK.
Yeah, no, yeah. I love the British countryside.
Yeah.
For all its kind of like whatever, there are parts of it which I do. To be honest, what I love is I love the I'm a gardener by heart, so I'm a romanticist by heart. And so I do like the kind of whimsical, romantic nature of like what the British countryside is kind of like how it's written and drawn and everything like that. Like there's just there is something really beautiful about that. Yeah.
And the seasons in the UK are just wonderful, I think.
Yeah, and it's just good for still growing food, even though it's changing. It's still a pretty good spot.
Yeah, and you're going to get the lovely warm temperatures of the Med soon anyway.
Yeah,
so.
well, exactly.
Every cloud.
Well, then Mum's already got that, to be fair. But,
oh, she? Oh, gosh. So is your greenhouse going to be have a modern vibe? Are you going for sort of quite traditional? What look will it have?
Oh, it'd have to be, wooden. You can't.
A wooden.
I don't know if you can get a 5 metre high wooden glass house, but
you can in your dream garden.
Yeah, but definitely wooden. There's just something lovely about just a good wooden glass house.
So you wouldn't painted?
No, it wouldn't be painted. It had probably a brick bottom as well.
A brick bottom.
Yeah, and the whole thing would be on a it'd be soil inside and a hardcore surrounding probably.
Okay. What's the greenhouse situation at Birch Farm?
So we've got two. We've got two Dutch glass houses. One of them is for propagation, and the other one.
What's a Dutch glass house?
So it's a glass house that can basically take high wind.
Oh.
Yeah. So it's reinforced glass.
Are they renowned for high wind in the Netherlands?
I think so. Yeah.
Right.
And I think it kind of, when it's really windy, the glass house flexes like a lung. It kind of like rocks
scary.
with the wind. Yeah, it's pretty scary.
That's incredible.
But it can take those
You
winds.
have to bend with it.
We had an 87 mile an hour wind last year, so it's pretty intense. So the glass houses can take that wind. So it's the only glass house that we can really have. To be honest, we couldn't have polytunnels because they'd get ripped every single year.
Yeah,
because it's so intense up there.
Yeah. So sorry, these Dutch glass houses, they are actually of glass. They're not a
they're really thick reinforced glass. Yeah,
incredible. So you'd have something like that then.
Yeah, but it'd have to be high for the trees that I put into it.
Yeah. Okay.
Whoa. The question that everyone hates is, what would be 5 ornamentals for your dream garden?
My 5 favourite ornamentals. So my number 1, I would say, is I was totally seduced by giant fennel at Dixter.
Yes. It's gorgeous there.
Phalaria communis, and then I did a plant hunt in Crete, and I saw a huge landscape of giant fennel with Allium purpureum, and it was absolutely stunning, basically.
Lovely.
So definitely giant fennel was my favourite, and every garden I've ever designed or done always has giant fennel in it, because I was just totally mesmerised when I first saw it at Great Dixter.
Well, that is number 1 then.
Can I just ask you about the plant hunt? So is this something you organised independently, or did you go with a group?
Yeah. So we were doing a plant hunt. So we did it through the Mediterranean Garden Society, because at the time, because I worked at Sissinghurst, and it was just at the beginning when Troy wanted to start Delos, kind of way before like Dan Pearson designed what it is now, and we were looking at like inspirations to things like plants and what we could have and everything like that. So we went through the Mediterranean Garden Society, and they were doing like a plant hunt out there, and they kind of like took us along, and we kind of like went through and found stuff like that as well.
Oh, fantastic!
So it was a lot of plant tourism with a little bit of like finding. So we saw like wild peonies, alliums, just really basic stuff like Euphorbia caracus, like growing in abandoned olive groves.
Yeah.
But it was so beautiful.
Beautiful. Did you discover anything that had never been found before?
No. It's all pretty done. But I saw like wild tulips up in the Omelos Plateau.
Yeah.
Which was amazing, and loads of rare things. I am not a botanical gardener. Like, I love plants for how they look. So I can look at a field of euphorbia and be totally obsessed by it.
Yeah.
Whereas people find this thing this big, and I'm like, I don't care about that. I want to see the huge landscape ones.
Right. You like maximum impact.
Yeah. So that was good. And so Phalaria communis, giant fennel, I absolutely love.
Yeah,
I love
Sanguisorba.
Sanguisorba is one of my favourite plants.
I love that.
Yeah, like pink squirrels. I love pink squirrels. We have it growing on the rubble.
Pink squirrels.
Pink squirrels.
Pink squirrels.
What's that?
It's I think it's a Japanese Sanguisorba, but it's a lovely glaucous leaf Sanguisorba, and it has these bright kind of like cotton candy pink fuzzy flowers.
Oh, cute.
If you don't stake it, it does this lovely like leaning flop habit.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a really beautiful Sanguisorba.
Very pretty.
So I love that. I actually love, now I've totally fallen in love with sea kale, just Crabby maritima. So I've grown it as a vegetable on the farm.
That's brilliant.
But it's to have that purple, and when you look at sea kale up close, it's such a complicated purple. It's like textured. It's like someone's kind of painted it. It's like deep in the center and light on top. The flowers smell like honey and taste like honey, exactly like honey.
Really? Lovely.
The broccoli shoots now are really beautiful and delicious as well. So it's a beautiful plant that's also very edible. You know, the Victorians nearly ate it into extinction.
Really?
Yeah. So it was a very popular one. Doesn't need irrigation, lives for 60 years. But it's a really beautiful, dramatic plant at this time of year, especially on the rubble garden. It like really stands out. It's absolutely amazing.
The sea element of the name implies that it needs to be sort of near the sea, but is
no,
not the case? Just it's somewhere dry and
people grow them in like really fertile compost beds. They always look a bit like big and weedy and floppy, but actually we grow them in the rubble and they just look so pristine and you can literally take your finger and wipe it down the leaf and it leaves like a mark. It's that kind of like powdery, beautiful.
Yes, that's the protection.
From a farming point of view, the broccoli heads. So Toby, the head chef, has told me he never wants broccoli again. He only wants sea kale broccoli because he said the flavour's so much better.
Really?
And it's been found that sea kale broccoli heads are 8 times more productive than annual broccoli as well.
Right.
So that's from a farming point of view. There's also
interesting. We need to get some sea kale.
Sea kale is you force it in the spring. You get a lovely nutty stem. You can then eat the young leaves. You can then eat the broccoli heads. You can then eat the flowers, and then you can enjoy it and let it rest for a little bit, and then you can go back to it in the winter as well. So
with all those phases, how long is your harvesting time?
So sea kale we can harvest it for about 4 months, 4 to 5 months.
Wow! Right, we need to get that.
So we love that.
I
absolutely love Cephalaria as well.
Cephalaria.
So Cephalaria gigantea. You get Gigantea alpina and alpina as well, which is a smaller one. I'm a classic kind of like boy. I just love like big, massive, coarse, boistery plants. There's something about them I love. I love big plants. And Cephalaria is amazing. It self-seeds absolutely everywhere. It's got a beautiful scabious flower, like a big, huge yellow scabious flower.
Oh, so it's giant scabious?
Giant scabious, yeah.
Giant scabious, yes, beautiful.
So I love that, and again I also love that because I again went to Armenia to look at plants, and I saw a whole meadow of Cephalaria gigantea with wild pear trees up in the mountains of Armenia, and it completely blew my socks off.
What an experience!
So I love Cephalaria as well, so I use that quite a lot
to cook. Further?
No, just as an ornamental.
Just an
ornamental.
Roundabout.
And I also, as a native, I think devil bit scabious is one of the most beautiful plants in the world. You know, Scabiosa praetens. It's absolutely
gorgeous.
I use it in all my ornamentals, mostly for the butterflies. I love the lore. I love folklore. I love the fact that the root is ever so twisted, so they reckon the devil bit it. So it's kind of like a.
Oh, is that why it's called it?
Touch. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
It was such a beautiful plant. The devil bit it and basically, ruined it, kind of thing. But
I love that.
I love, so I love that, and I love salvias, Salvia turkistanica.
Yeah.
Coarse and brush, but absolutely beautiful. Sage, even I love sage. I love all the salvias. Like salvias. Really fascinate me as well.
We're a big salvia converts. We have all sorts of different salvias and they flourish in our conditions.
Yeah.
And they're so low maintenance. We do nothing and they come back all the time. We have obviously hardy ones.
Yeah.
And they all do great.
Yeah, I mean,
easy as anything.
And I tell you where the first salvia, so when I started at Sissinghurst, was when Salvia Amistad first came in.
Yeah.
Yes, that became a big trend.
And Amistad, I got blown away by Amistad, and then that led to things like Involucrata, and then that led to Phyllis's Fancy, which I think is one of the most beautiful plants in the world.
Oh, yeah.
And I love the meadow scabious, like Scabious praetens, and all the varieties within that as well. So, Salvia praetens. So, like salvias, those kind of like meadow salvias, I really love as well.
Then, what would be 5 edible plants?
Oh gosh, where do you stop with this?
5 edible plants. So, first one is Turkish rocket.
Ooh,
so,
lovely.
Turkish rocket is a perennial vegetable. It's really beautiful as well. It's got lovely flowers. It's tough as old boots. The slugs will peck at it, and then the slugs will leave it alone. It will grow through anything. In the first year, if the slugs eat it to the ground, it will come back twice as strong. It doesn't matter. But you get these absolutely spring, kind of like Sima de Rapi, brassica shoots, which are so tasty. And if you eat it raw, it's like pepper. And the leaves can be bitter, but the leaves are actually, the bitterness is quite palatable.
Yeah.
And so we use the leaves as like a 10% in our cooked green bag as well. But it's also a really beautiful plant. So I love Turkish rocket.
Lovely.
And do you have problems with, because the annual rocket, for example, bolts really easily? Doesn't it?
Yeah.
But the perennial not so much.
So so if you want a perennial one, wool rocket. So wool rocket doesn't bolt.
Right.
And the flea beetle don't like it as much as annual rocket. Turkish rocket is we want the flower shoots. We want to eat the flower shoots.
Oh, I see.
So the flower shoots are the main edible part of it.
Right.
The second one, which is one we've grown this year, which has been amazing, is 9-star broccoli, which is a perennial cauliflower / white kind of sprouting broccoli.
Yes, I've heard of it.
I think Mandy chose that one.
It's stunning. It's such a good perennial vegetable. You can't let it flower like most of the perennial kales. If it flowers, it dies.
Oh, okay.
So
what do
you
do?
just harvest it. You just
keep harvesting.
It flowering. But if you harvest it when the head is closed, it is like a cauliflower. It's like a little mini cauliflower. And then if you want it to open up, you can then harvest it like a PSB. It's so
Sorry,
sweet.
what's a PSB?
Purple sprouting broccoli.
Oh, okay.
It's so unbelievably sweet. You can eat it raw off the plant. You don't even have to cook it. Oh,
yum.
And the leaves are exactly like a spring summer cabbage as well. So the leaves are just as good as a spring summer cabbage, and it's perennial.
Oh, yum.
So that's been a big win for us. So Toby turned that into a beautiful dish of 9-star broccoli and crab. So it's a really beautiful dish.
Oh,
and then
salivating.
Our pick and preserve chef Darren, he's actually taken it all, and he's pickled the cauliflower heads, and it tastes like a kind of pickled cauliflower.
Right.
Wow. So
you mentioned, talking of that, just reminds me on the show you said about getting sunflowers before they've flowered, and they're more sort of a bud.
Yes.
And they're like an artichoke.
Yeah, and cook them like an artichoke. Yeah.
So you cook them first.
Yeah. So
you have to peel stuff off, or
you peel the tough leaves off, and then you can cook the whole head as like an artichoke. Yeah.
Right. And it tastes like an artichoke.
Yeah, and it tastes like a kind of globe artichoke.
Oh, fantastic.
Have you got any other plants which are quite unusual that you wouldn't know are edible, like the sunflower heads?
So one that's kind of blown me away of how good it is well, there's two actually. So Rebecca lacernata, there's a really popular variety called herb ston. That's the one you see everywhere, coneflower. Its other common name is Cherokee green, because the Cherokee Indians or the Cherokee Native Americans would cook with it and eat with it.
Oh, right.
So now, so you can eat it as a salad plant. It becomes a really delicious cooked green. And then by the time you're waiting for the flower heads, it goes bitter in the midsummer. So then you just let it come up and flower and look beautiful. So that's been an amazing one. And Hemricalis daylily.
Yeah.
Like, we know that the flower is the most delicious thing in the world, but the buds, before the flowers open, if you fry them up, they taste exactly like baby courgette. And if you take the young shoots as it comes up and cook them, they taste exactly like peanuts as well.
Wow.
Yeah.
The Hemricalis have got so many strings to their bow, haven't they?
Yeah, honestly, the buds cooked are like a baby courgette, and they just come every single day.
That's so cool.
Yeah. Excellent. Wow. Let's try that. We've got one. We could try that with Sweet Pea.
So my other
cut off the buds to eat them with one plant.
Well, it keeps your deadhead in them as well. I mean, my other three, broad beans. I love broad beans. I think I will always
Can't go wrong, can
broad
you?
beans. I think they're absolutely amazing plants.
Are you starting all these things in the greenhouse first, or would you put broad beans straight in the ground?
We can't do October broad beans because the wind just rips them to pieces in the winter. So we start the early ones in the glass house, and then we sow them outside from spring, basically.
Okay.
Like February, kind of like late winter, we sow them outside.
Yeah. Okay.
I love that. I love dill. I love dill as a herb, and I think it's one of the most beautiful flowers that you can have in your veg plot. So dill is my aromatic. I put in everything because the flower's amazing for flies and wasps. So the parasitic wasps love the flower. And I just love dill itself as well.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I will say the perennial kales, they surprise me every single year.
Good.
Actually, how far you can eat them. And even though we don't want them to flower, when eventually they do flower, the shoots are like sugar. They're so sweet and delicious as well.
Right.
Oh,
So you eat that,
lovely.
but once they flower, is it again? That's it.
I'm pretty. No
Always
one's
quite
confirmed it, but
bitter.
I think they're monocarpic. So I'm pretty sure that a lot of these perennial kales, that when they flower, they die. They basically the flower takes the last of their energy and then they die off. Yeah.
Oh,
It's like their last breath.
Yeah, it's like the
Right.
Austrian tree cabbage. You know, the perennial, beautiful thing that real seed cell. It flowers every year. If you let it flower, it dies off. But I think if you keep the flowers back, it's fine.
Then what would be your one statement tree? The big one.
that's tricky.
Do you know, it sounds trashy as anything, but I have really fallen for monkey puzzle trees.
Oh, we've had that quite a few
Couple of
times.
times.
Yeah, so
They're extraordinary.
They're weird and wacky.
I always remember, so monkey puzzles, I guess, so my family, a lot of my family live in Wales.
All right.
And I used to go there as a kid every summer. And there's a house that's about five houses up from my auntie. And when I was a kid, it was a tiny monkey puzzle tree. And every year I've gone back, it's now this massive, the classic, like someone put a monkey puzzle in their front garden in the 80s, and now they have this humongous tree. And when I went up there last year, and it's just this house, and the whole front garden is the trunk of the monkey puzzle.
And they're quite brutal trunks, aren't they?
Yeah.
So the sap that comes off it.
So I love monkey puzzle. I like the spikiness of them, the absolute like
sort of
antisocial behaviour of them. And when I part of my scholarship, I did a bit of time at Mount Stewart in Northern Ireland.
Ooh.
And Neil Porteous, who was the plantsman there at the time, he wanted to plant a monkey puzzle forest at Mount Stewart.
A forest of it. Wow.
So we started to do that. So that was fantastic.
Why did he want a forest?
He was a plantsman by nature, and he had all these monkey puzzle I think seeds that he collected in the wild. He was desperate to get them planted up. And then when I came into the farm, there's a food forest about an hour and a half away. It's run by Ken and Addy, and they did Plants for a Future. Mm-hmm. And I originally saw Ken and Addy on an episode of Cook on the Wild Side by Hugh Fairley-Whitstall before he did River Cottage. And he went there when the food forest was sticks. And Ken and Addy, he was a bus driver in London, and they were raw vegans in the 80s. And they couldn't sustain their raw vegan diet in the 80s in London, so they moved to
tough time.
They bought some cheap land in Cornwall and grew a food forest to do that. And monkey puzzle was his main carbohydrate, basically.
So he ate the monkey puzzle?
Yes, the nuts are delicious, and they're one of the highest carbohydrates we can grow. But I go to Plants for a Future now every year because they're only an hour and a half away. And from that TV series in 89 or 88, now they actually have a monkey puzzle forest in their food forest.
Wow!
And it's like you're walking back in the age of dinosaurs, to be honest.
You can visit there then?
Yeah. Plants for a Future. Plants for a Future are they're like the biggest database on perennial foods, basically.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, we'll have to look those up. And talking of that, is Birch Farm visitable?
Yeah. We run events, we run tours. We try to do as much as we can, basically. So we do like little hour and a half tours, or we do kind of like 3-hour mini workshops where we discuss like a subject on the farm, like food forest or perennial or natural farming.
Oh, okay.
And then we're running more events now on the farm as well. So we do one on agroforestry, soil, perennial foods and stuff like that.
Second to last question, which is, would you like a pond or a pool, and what plant would you have in that area?
Definitely be a pond.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
It would be a pond I swim in.
Okay.
But it would definitely be a pond.
What size are we talking?
So we're probably talking about, again, probably about 10 metres long, by like 5 metres wide, maybe 6 metres wide.
Lovely.
It would be like an egg shape.
Oh, an egg shape, okay.
Yeah, I'd probably have an egg-shaped pond. And the plant I would plant, it's a tough one because there's a lot of pond plants I like. But water lilies are absolutely so beautiful.
They are.
Yeah, they're too beautiful.
So probably like a native water lily. Yeah, which is also edible. So there you go.
Oh, well.
Yeah.
And what colour is that, the flower?
It'd have to be the yellow one, like the native one.
The yellow one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yellow. Lovely.
So you've got a pond where you are?
Yeah, we have a pond in one of our food forests.
Not one you can swim in?
Yeah, we swim in it. Yeah.
Oh, you do swim in it?
Yeah.
So is it basically a lake, or is it a proper natural swimming
No.
pond
It's a
where
small little pool, basically, as I just described, to be honest.
So if you've got filtration, the natural filtration system,
plants will filtrate it for us.
Yeah,
it's perfectly crystal clear. So actually, what's amazing this year is you can look into it, and you can see loads of newts swimming on the surface.
Oh, brilliant!
Yeah, so there's loads of newts in it now.
A newt pool.
Yeah,
that's lovely.
Brilliant.
What type of newts have you got?
No idea, to be honest, but I can see them on top. I'm not very good at ideas.
They're newts.
But what's interesting about our pond is all the pond plants are edible, so they're all edible pond plants.
That's very cool. I like that. So you can be munching while swimming.
Yeah. So one of our top ones is the pond's actually designed so it's a very very gentle slope in, but there's a harvesting shelf around the whole boundary of it, so you can harvest the whole thing in welly, so you don't have to put waders on. So you can harvest all the pond plants on a harvesting shelf. The only problem is you can't see the harvesting shelf, so people get pretty nervous when they go in. But there is a harvesting shelf, and things like Fool's watercress is our lettuce replacement in January, February, because it's such a delicious salad plant. So we don't pick it from the pond.
Highly nutritional as well.
I love watercress.
Yeah, we don't pick it from the pond. We grow it in our veg beds, to be fair.
Okay.
But also bulrush. Bulrush tastes like white asparagus. Yeah.
Oh wait, you can eat bulrush. I didn't know.
Yeah, you can eat bulrush in the spring. You can take the flower shoot, chop it, and it tastes exactly like white asparagus when you cook it.
Right. So how deep is the pond there?
Pond is 1.8 at its deepest.
Okay. And this is 10 metre egg shaped, just like
pretty much, yeah.
Okay. So you'd have it exactly like that.
I'll probably have the same pond, to be honest, yeah.
Okay. So would you have any water feature or anything like that? You don't want a waterfall or a stream running through? Just
no, I think
you've got.
If I did, not really a water feature, but then I would have it overflow into a swale system.
That would be lovely, wouldn't it?
Very cool.
Yeah.
Honestly, the best, it's probably a niche, but the best food forest swimming pond in the country is Sagara's at the East Devon Food Forest. But that pond is like you're looking at the Mediterranean Sea. It is,
really? Turquoise?
Turquoise blue. It's absolutely
Is it
crazy.
really?
Yeah. And it's in a bowl. He dug a big bowl down, so it keeps. So the pond generates loads of heat, and it's kept in by the walls of the bowl that he dug.
Wow!
And it's like a turquoise blue.
How's he getting it turquoise?
He has a non-powered filtration system,
right?
And it's so amazing. And the heat from the pond and the bowl means that he can grow things like figs and outdoor pomegranates around it. Yeah, so he made it into a microclimate as well.
Impressive.
This sounds amazing.
Yeah, so Sagara, East Devon Food Forest, Sagara, and have a look at that swimming pond, and that is the best swimming pond in the country.
I mean, it begs the question, Josh, why wouldn't you have that in your dream garden?
Yeah, exactly. I probably should have that, to be honest.
Have the turquoise one, I would.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing.
Well, final question, and that is, what would be your favourite seating area to chillax on, a drink to have, and a plant to have by your side?
I would have to say it would be what would you call it? It would be a kind of like roofed arbor.
Oh yeah.
Or pergola, is that what you call it? Anyway, but it would have it would be that. And it would have a grapevine as the canopy on top.
Very lovely.
And what I would probably do is I would put IBCs.
What are IBCs?
Like plastic farming tubs. And I'd fill them with water and heat that water. And then I think I'd build a clay cob kind of like seating area bench on that. And so it'd be like a heated clay cob seating area with a grapevine, pergola, and I'd probably definitely then have an outdoor kitchen next to it as well. So that's probably what I would have. Yeah.
Wait, I'm struggling to understand these. What's an IBC?
So an IBC is a 220 litre plastic tank that farmers use.
Sorry, yes.
They're white, and they have a metal cage around them.
Cuboid.
Yeah, so you take those and
we have one.
Do we?
Yeah, you can fill them with water. You can heat them through a log burner system.
In the veg garden,
like a plumbing system. And then you can build cob over the top of them.
I see.
So you can build like a bed, or you could build like a bench of cob. Put blankets and cushions on that, and then the IBC water will heat up, and then you can create like heated seats and stuff like that.
I see what you're saying now.
Yeah.
Right, I like that.
Ours?
Sweet Pea, the one in the veg garden. That's an IBC. You remember we talked to Owen Heyman about it? He was carrying one round on the roof of his car.
Our water butt.
Yeah.
Oh!
With a cage around it.
Oh, it makes sense now.
It
Okay,
all
So that's
cool.
big in permaculture. Get loads of IBCs, fill them with water, heat the water up through plumbing, and then you can build like cob over them and sit on them and lie on them and sleep on them and stuff.
Right. Okay.
How
I love the
interesting.
idea of this. Also, because we haven't had this at all in any of the
So
dream
new.
gardens,
Yeah.
and I like new things.
But I am a sucker for like pergola arbors with grapevines over the top and like outdoor kitchens linked to that as well. I do love that.
It's beautiful. So quite a sociable space then.
Yeah.
My question on the IBC is, where do you stand on the use of the plastic with an IBC?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, you could argue that they're recycled material, but I don't agree with the idea that things get recycled when they come back. I guess it's probably a selfish need from my part, but I guess if I wasn't going to use an IBC, you could use, I don't know what you'd use, to be honest.
A big clay one.
I guess you could make a clay one, yeah. I guess to be honest, you wouldn't even need the IBC. I guess you could run some kind of plumbing system through it anyway.
Well,
through
Josh,
the cob.
If you were making your compost properly, and
and then
compost,
you could use it through that.
Use the heat from that.
Yeah, use the heat through that.
Yeah,
that would
the
be
worms would
pretty
eat your
cool.
bench, but
that sounds awesome.
I tell you, that is a copy and paste from Sagara at the East Devon Food Forest.
Oh, we need to check that place.
And he's got his outdoor kitchen full of his food forest preserves.
Oh.
And then he has these IBC cob seats that you sit on, they're heated.
Yeah.
And then he gives you like the best chai tea you'll ever drink.
Yeah.
While sitting on these like cob heated seats. It's so lovely. It's so amazing.
Brilliant.
Yeah. Grapevines with passion fruits hanging over the arbors.
Very Mediterranean vibe with passion fruit and grapevines. Yeah, I really do like that. We're going to have to check this place out, Sweet Pea.
Well, what drink will you have to chillax with?
Oh, yes. There's a dog just entered the phone.
Yeah, sorry, Twinkle, she's rocking the bench.
Hi,
I'm just going to pick her up.
Sorry.
Hello?
I mean, I absolutely love Guinness.
A Guinness.
Yeah, always a Guinness. A good Guinness.
Sounds good.
Lovely. Very nice last choice. Well, I'm going to read back to your dream garden just in case I've missed anything or you want to change anything. So, garden boundary, we're going with an edible windbreak. So, Eleagna, Scotch pine, hawthorns, willow, hazelnuts, wineberries, just all the mishmash of all of those. I'm sure there were some others you said, but I did miss them. We're going with an acre in Sussex and view of fields and ancient forests beyond, like at your mum's place. Then your greenhouse was going to be a Dutch greenhouse for the windbreak, 5 meters high, 20 meters long and wide, wooden, not painted, brick bottom, soil inside, and a tropical food forest in there.
Yeah.
Your 5 ornamentals, we had giant fennel, sanguisulba, pink squirrel, sea kale, Cephalaria gigantea, the giant scabious, and the devil's bit scabious. And then salvias, all of them. We loved all of them. Your 5 edibles, we had Turkish rocket, 9-star broccoli, broad beans, dill, perennial kale. Your 1 tree was a monkey puzzle tree. You wanted a natural swimming pond, egg-shaped, like the one that you have on the farm.
Yeah.
But then we did also talk about the turquoise one at Clumpton, so
that is the best.
Sure. We're maybe a mishmash between both of them, but we're definitely going with a yellow native water lily in there as the favourite plant. And an overflow to a swale system would be pretty cool as well.
Yeah.
And then your seating area was roof pergola or / arbor with a grapevine canopy on top, heated clay cob seating, outdoor kitchen, and a Guinness.
Yeah, perfect.
Sounds
pretty
wonderful.
awesome.
Yeah.
That sounds like a very all-round.
And the garden would just be a giant food forest.
Giant food forest.
Yeah, so it'd be an acre of food forest inspired Robert Hart inspired food forest.
Okay,
exactly.
Well, I really appreciated you giving us your time, Josh, because you have also just had a new baby.
I have, yeah.
So congratulations on that.
Yeah, had a new one. Yeah.
But how many is that now?
That's 2 now.
That's 2. So imagine you're a very tired man. You've just worked a 12-hour day, so we're honoured that you would join us.
No.
Thank
you
very much.
Happy to, yeah.
Thanks so much. That's
brilliant.
A good old chit-chat with Josh.
Yeah, thank you.